let's bring on our next speakers here. And I'm going to bring on our moderator first, Mr. Logan Ross, a.k.a. BZ Logan.
How are we doing today, Spencer?
We're doing, Logan. This is one of the parts of the day that I'm most excited for. We are heading into the Polkaverse. We're diving headfirst into the Polkaverse. Am I right?
You are exactly correct, Spencer.
Okay. Tell us who we have on this esteemed panel.
Yeah, for sure. So, hey, everyone, welcome to the Polkaverse. This is going to be a panel all about the Polkadot blockchain and its surrounding ecosystem. Today, we're joined by some incredible people from some of the most cutting-edge teams in the blockchain industry. So we have Cassidy, Daly, who does token design and research at Centrifuge. We have Christine Mohan, who's the VP of Business Development at Dev-kilt Protocol. And we have Dan Reecer, who's the VP of Growth at Acala. Thank you all for joining us today at Benzinga. So starting with Cassidy, could each of you go around, introduce yourselves and your project?
Yeah, thanks for hosting, Logan. So my name's Cassidy. I work on token design and research at Centrifuge. This is the team behind our Kusama project, also called Altair. My background is in economics and international finance. Also worked briefly as a consultant for the Federal Reserve before I joined the crypto space. So Centrifuge is really real-world DeFi is how we frame it right now. So enabling users to tokenize their assets that exist in the real world and finance them on-chain, plugging into DeFi liquidity in places like Maker and very soon Aave. We just passed that governance proposal there. So Centrifuge Chain is already live today. We currently have a standalone substrate-based chain, so part of that Polkadot ecosystem. And we have a financing dApp called Tinlake on Ethereum that has over $30 million in TVL. So Centrifuge Chain will be bidding for a parachain slot soon on Polkadot once they go live. But Altair, the experimental boundary-pushing little brother to Centrifuge that's focused on these sort of fringe use cases, is currently bidding for a parachain slot on Kusama.
Great. And Christine?
Hi, I'm Christine from Dev-kilt, VP Business Development. So I work across biz dev, marketing, PR, ecosystem partnerships. I came from Polkadot and Web3 Foundation, where I was CMO there, doing a slightly different role and really involved in the launch of Polkadot last year and through the decentralization phases, which was really good training for Dev-kilt. And before that, I was a co-founder of Civil, which was a blockchain syndication platform out of Brooklyn, which was a spoke of consensus. So I've been on the Ethereum side as well. So Dev-kilt is an identity protocol. Our goal is to put the control of your personal identity and your data back in your hands. And we do that through issuing on our protocol what we call verifiable credentials, self-sovereign credentials. So really, one of our top goals is to help people understand that digital identity is broken right now in Web 2, and that Web 3 offers a way to improve this and actually make people autonomous and have them be able to disclose data when they want and how they want. And we are built on Substrate. We are launching soon as a Kusama parachain, and we're partnering with folks like Acala and Centrifuge to do that. And good to be here.
Thanks, Christine. And last but certainly not least, Dan.
Hey, Logan. Yeah, it's great to be here with a couple other great panelists and friends, Cassidy and Christine. I'm Dan Reecer from the Acala team. We're also building Karura on Kusama. My background, I've been at Acala for about, I think, 7 months now. And prior to that, also worked at Web3 Foundation with Christine, launching Polkadot and Kusama prior to coming over to Acala. We are building a kind of multi-chain DeFi platform for the Polkadot ecosystem with Acala. And then we're building a very similar platform kind of centered around KSM and the Kusama community with our Karura platform. Karura, we are already live. We're at, I think, around 70 million TVL and have our DEX stablecoin live, and then liquid KSM staking just went live yesterday. And then we'll be, just like the other two teams here, we'll be gearing up for the Polkadot parachain auctions as soon as those get started. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome. So a little bit of background on Polkadot. A lot of projects have gained mainstream popularity recently after being labeled so-called Ethereum killers, like Cardano, Solana, and Polkadot is sometimes referred to that as well. But Ethereum co-founder and Polkadot founder Dr. Gavin Wood says that Polkadot is not an Ethereum killer, but a bet against single blockchain maximalism. So Dan, could you talk about how Polkadot aims to expand decentralized product offerings and what specific challenges it was built to overcome?
Yeah, for sure. So just to kind of set context, we came from a world where Bitcoin and Ethereum were, prior to Polkadot, the two kind of biggest innovations in the crypto space. And both of these are single layer one blockchains that were kind of isolated from everything else. So Gavin, after building Ethereum, realized that there needs to be this system or architecture to connect multiple blockchains together instead of everything kind of being built on its own. So right now, we're seeing a lot of growth in the layer one space. So when I say layer one, I mean independent blockchains like Solana, Ethereum, Avalanche, and what have you. But these are all independent chains. Polkadot is in a different category. If you know about ETH 2.0 and what the plans are for that, Polkadot's first comparable network will be ETH 2 when that launches. At the current moment, there's actually no comparables for Polkadot because it's this layer below connecting multiple blockchains together. What Polkadot is primarily doing, or will do when parachains launch on Polkadot, is it will secure blockchains, which we call parachains, and it will connect parachains together. Besides these two, security and cross-chain, what it will also help with is another very important but underappreciated aspect is the ability to upgrade the blockchain without forking. I think many people have heard about the Bitcoin Cash fork and Ethereum forks, and this is an underestimated aspect of Polkadot. An example of this is that Polkadot's already been upgraded 25 times since launch. This is 25 upgrades that would have caused a fork with prior networks. So the speed of innovation that we're seeing is extremely fast at the Polkadot level, but this will also be applicable to any parachain built on Polkadot as well. And then the last thing that I'll mention is customization. So any blockchain, Kilt, Centrifuge, Acala, these are being customized at the blockchain level instead of being forced to kind of only be able to innovate on top of the blockchain in applications. So we were able to build our chain specifically for DeFi, and other chains are building specifically for their use cases. So the Polkadot ecosystem is kind of a bet on customization and specialization versus building something super broad and trying to build, a wide variety of applications on that.
That's perfect. Thank you. So Polkadot is basically this hub for connecting interoperable application-specific blockchains, and these are called the parachains. And there's extremely limited parachain slots available to connect into the Polkadot hub. So let's take a trip into the future. The year is now 2025. Your roadmaps are fully delivered, and you've all launched as parachains on Polkadot. So for each project, starting with Cassidy, how will the retail market use or be impacted by your product?
I would start with saying we've already seen a pretty huge impact from Centrifuge. We've been live for a little over a year. And I think let's jump to the future, 2025, I think it'll only look stronger, and especially with integrations with projects like these other two great projects on the panel, Kilt and Acala. So today we enable access to financing for all sorts of different business owners. And these are generally the type of businesses that aren't able to access financing through the traditional financial system. So for example, we have Spotify artists, Amazon sellers, and soon even TikTok content creators that will be able to access financing because of Centrifuge. So in 2025, that could look like even more secure ways of being able to say this asset is real and it exists using something like Kilt. Being able to finance these assets not just with DAI that we're using today, but also with the Acala dollar or even other stable coins in the future, and being able to move these assets really easily between chains like Centrifuge chain, but also directly to Acala or Kilt if you wanted, or to other different chains within the system. So I think one of the breakthrough potentials that I see in the Polkadot ecosystem is really these integrations between projects and the way that we can actually grow this to be even bigger than it is today. And really accessible financing is what Centrifuge is targeting.
That's great. And the tokenization of real world assets has been extremely like fascinating to me, just because of the potential to unlock like billions of dollars of value. I mean, from real estate to B2B invoices, there aren't many real world items that can't be tokenized as NFTs. I'm curious, how will Altair contribute to the success of Centrifuge?
So Altair is really that experimental little brother, I would say, to Centrifuge. One of the coolest use cases I'm excited about for Altair is imagine being able to finance your CryptoPunks. So really taking it to that next level of having enough flexibility on Altair that you could really push the boundaries of what asset financing looks like. So any sort of different art NFT, imagine that you could create a DAO, and that DAO is owning all of these different NFTs, and it can pool those NFTs together on Altair and access financing with different stable coins from different projects. Like in the Kusama ecosystem, that would be Karura and the Karura dollar. So I think for me with Altair, it's really like pushing what that bleeding edge looks like in asset financing.
Awesome. And so I'll pass it to Dan now. Maybe you could give us a vision of 2025 for your team.
Yeah. So 2025, that's about 4 years. So where things are headed now, and this goes back, I think, a few months to an integration that we announced and we're working on and hope to launch later this year with a US fintech company called Current, or current.com. We're seeing this fintech interest in DeFi, as well as you've seen recent announcements with Compound Treasury and Coinbase had a recent announcement around these fixed yield, like 4%, for example. But I think this is where everything will be going in the next 4 years. So aside from everything that Cassidy mentioned with cross-chain DeFi applications within the Polkadot ecosystem, as well as Acala bridging to other ecosystems. So the Acala dollar will not only be the stablecoin for the Polkadot ecosystem, but there's a huge demand for another decentralized stablecoin option besides DAI. So we see AUSD, the Acala dollar, going also to Ethereum and other ecosystems soon. In addition to the kind of like crypto specific use cases, in 2025, we'll most likely see a lot more integrations with fintech companies. So just to expand on the current.com integration, what they're calling the product and the exact like yield hasn't been finalized yet, but what this will look like is there's 3 million customers in the US using Current on their phone for a simple savings account. They're probably earning like 0.5% like most other banks offer. But with a DeFi backend, this will mean that current customer dollars can flow out of traditional finance into the AUSD stablecoin and into Acala to earn yield on those funds. They don't even have to know that crypto is involved, but what happens is when we're generating that yield, the yield is then sent back into US dollars and distributed to customers' accounts, and they're magically getting maybe 3, 4, or 5% on that with a new kind of yield-bearing account. This is just one small example of what fintech could be doing with crypto. But what gets me excited about that is we always talk about mass adoption and all this stuff, but this is how we get mass adoption, is to bring crypto yield to people without them knowing it's crypto, because crypto is way too hard to use still. These extensions, the wallets, these private and public keys, the masses don't have any interest in knowing that. What they want is just 4% interest, 3% interest instead of 0.5 interest. So that's kind of what I'm excited to see over the next 3-4 years.
That's awesome. And you've already secured a spot on the Canary Network Kusama. What does that mean for your first mover advantage as like the go-to DeFi platform now on Kusama?
Yeah, Kusama has been extremely beneficial to us, and I think all other teams, because Polkadot is always going to be our primary focus with Acala, but Karura has been phenomenal experience for us. Number one, going through this parachain slot auction process, which is a process where you have to kind of bid against other teams in order to win a slot to launch. So we've already done that once. So now when we do it for Acala, we've already kind of been through this and know what worked and didn't work. In addition to that, all these products that we plan on launching on Acala have already launched on Karura or will have launched. So we will know exactly, again, how to improve everything before it gets to Acala. And then another thing that I didn't expect, but is actually pretty interesting on the DeFi side, we're working with a kind of a risk management firm called Gauntlet, who works with Aave and Compound and many of the other top DeFi platforms. And what they were telling us is that typically when they are providing recommendations on risk parameters within the DeFi platform, for example, like collateralizing crypto for a stablecoin loan, they typically had to just kind of make guesses and test based on testnet and then move to mainnet and hope that those risk parameters were accurate. But now this is the first time they've actually been able to get real world data from an experimental network on Karura. So all the data that we're going to be feeding into the Acala risk model is going to be real world data. So it's going to be super accurate when it makes its way to Acala versus just kind of making best guesses on testnet. So a few examples of why Karura has been so valuable to us.
Awesome. And now, Christine, I kind of want to start with my follow-up question and then lead that into the 2025 outlook. So how has the centralization of big tech negatively affected the internet? And what is Kilt doing to fix this problem and put users' data back in their own hands? You are on mute, by the way.
Yes. So the consolidation of our personal data is now in the hands of, those top 4 or 5 companies, unfortunately, many of which are in the US. And a lot of consumers have conceded that, right? It's convenient to sign in very quickly with one click. And so what's important for us is to be another solution to that and actually show people there's another way. And certainly identity and autonomy is key to the Web3 vision and kind of the next version of the internet. And we see ourselves as a key infrastructure for that. There's nothing more personal than identity. People get that. And I think we've had a lot of support from our community really early on because they sense there's something wrong, they want more, but don't really know. And there's not a lot of solutions out there. Anything can have an identity. So a person, obviously, machines, a machine identity, services. So what we hope to do in the next 4 or 5 years is really shift the consumer and the enterprise and the corporate thinking around this. And actually, what would it be like to have something more like selective disclosure? We are sharing only parts of your data in the way that you want. And also not having that shared and then remonetized and retargeted and all those wonderful things that the web has done to us in the last 10 years. So those are really big goals. So if we've done our job right in 4 or 5 years, we've built a marketplace. We've built a marketplace for credentials. We are working on, and we'll announce later this year, what we're calling, it's a DAO model. It's a virtual credential organization, or a VCO, where people can actually build businesses around verification, around identity. The goal here is for Kilt to become like a platform like Drupal, where our CEO Ingo came from, and he was on their board. I come out of a WordPress world, work with them pretty closely. So it's really Kilt becoming that layer that people are building on, entrepreneurs, startups, enterprises, to actually build businesses on. And that's the end game here. And then I'm actually getting very nimble because there's a lot of applications for Kilt across anything from NFTs to gaming to DeFi. We're working with a lot of partners around ways to introduce a little more KYC elements into the DeFi world, because there's a lot of regulation happening there very soon this fall. So it's really a matter of focusing on which applications work best and which regions, and a lot of different geographic areas are also taking a heavy look at data and data usage. So it's a really good time for Kilt to be launching.
That's great. We have about 5 or 6 more minutes, but I want to give each of you a little bit of time to tell the audience if there are currently any opportunities to support your project, where they can go to find out more information, and any other thoughts you might have. So I will pass it to Cassidy.
Cool. Yeah, I think we'd love for you to always jump in the conversation with us. We have a Telegram channel, t.me/centrifuge_chat. So you can always jump in there and ask us questions. right now we have our Altair crowd loan that's open on Kusama. So you could head over to the Kusama portal directly or centrifuge.io/Altair to learn more and stake your KSM to support Altair's bid for one of the Kusama parachain slots.
And Dan?
Yep. So if you're curious to use Karura and see what Acala is going to be like when that launches, the Karura apps are live. So what I mentioned with the DEX and stablecoin and liquid KSM staking, you can find all of this at apps.karura, which is KARURA.network. Our primary place for discussion is on Discord. But where I'll send you is to the Acala Twitter. It's just twitter.com/Acala network. When you go there, there's a Linktree link, and that is the link to basically everything you need to know about Acala and all of our channels, and including all the Karura channels. So just go to our Twitter, follow us there. We're very active on Twitter. And then, just give us a follow there, and then follow our newsletter if you want to keep kind of updated on the major news.
Thanks, Dan. And Christine?
Sure. So we, fortunately or not, finished and hit our max cap today in the Kusama parachain auction. So there is not an opportunity to vote and contribute to our auction right now. So that is one thing that was an opportunity until about 3 o'clock today. But the next opportunity is to certainly support us through this process and through launch. We've got very active Twitter as well. It's handled @Kilt Protocol. We've got an active Telegram, but what we've just started is Clan Kilt, which is kind of a beginning stage to a it's not exactly an ambassador program. It's more use cases and experimentation and a sandbox where folks can meet the community and start thinking about ideas on a very consumer level on how Kilt can be used. And we've already seen pretty cool ideas being just knocked around even before launch. So that's clankilt.io. And we also have an SDK. We've got some tools that are already there that people can play with. We've got, if you go to dev.kilt.io, all the tools are there. But we will be launching as soon as we secure the parachain and then mainnet. And so things are really going to get busy. We've got a lot of partnerships around privacy and DEXs and DeFi coming up. So depending on what you're interested in, there's going to be a lot of ways to brainstorm. So we definitely invite folks to reach out to us on any of these places. DM us if you have ideas, because it really, the use cases are endless, and we really want to go broad on this because it is identity and so applicable to many things.
Thanks for sharing, Christine, and thank you all for joining us today and sharing the information about these awesome projects. Once again, these are all Polkadot projects that are currently building on the Canary Network Kusama, as well in preparation for a spectacular and bug-free, hopefully, launch on Polkadot in the future. I will pass it back to Spencer now. We hope you enjoyed your trip into the Polkaverse. Thanks for joining us today.